Hello and welcome to my channel, The Unrepentant Atheist, and today I'm going to be talking about presuppositionalist apologetics. And this argument first came to my attention without knowing specifically what it was called, I think, while watching the Atheist Experience. And what happened was that somebody called in and he presented what looked like, and I think what is actually circular argument. I can't remember who was on at the time. Actually, I think this particular guy called a couple of times. Once Matt was on, and I think that once, not Ashley, the other guy? Oh, I forget his name. His sister comes on sometimes. He's pretty good, but he spotted it fairly quickly. And yeah, he said that, why do you believe in God? And I think he said, because if you don't believe in God, your worldview doesn't make any sense. And then it was either Matt or whoever just said, well, you realize that's circular. And so he was asserting, so this is, I think, the essence of the presuppositionalist argument, that it is actually circular, but as we've seen in its extreme presentation from absurd characters like Darth Dawkins, completely atrocious name, by the way, Darth Dawkins. I can see what he's doing. He's taking Richard Dawkins and Darth Vader and he's putting them together. So, it's like you've got this sort of warrior evil kind of a scientist, and in a way it's quite sort of clever, but what isn't, I think, clever is his presentation of his argument. But some people have said that Darth Dawkins is a caller, somebody who used to call the Atheist Experience somewhere around, when would it be? The early days, relatively early days, around 2008, 2009. I forget his name, but the voice is very similar. Somehow I don't think it's him, but he's a caller who used to come on and argue for creationism. And I remember there was one call where this guy came on and he was talking to Martin, I think was maybe one, or was it Ashley, and then this other guy whose name I can't remember. And he was talking as if it was almost as if he lives in a world where there are nothing but creationists, and that he's never heard any other arguments. He thinks that evolution is like a crackpot theory, something that's way out there, a real outlier kind of fringe theory, because it was explained in quite a sophisticated way why evolution is, scientific and why creationism isn't. And I mean, this guy just said, he kind of laughed and had a bit of a laugh, and he said, well, at least you're honest, this is a completely foolish, illogical, crackpot idea, this evolution, but at least you're honest about believing it. It's like it's like 95% of the world's scientists are creationists and 5% are evolutionists, accept evolutionary theory. And he's talking to a couple of crackpots on the Atheist Experience on YouTube. And I just thought that was kind of hilarious. He was very arrogant, the way he used to talk. So arrogant and so ignorant, it was just unbelievable. So that's why I kind of wonder whether really he is Darth Dawkins, because the thing about Darth Dawkins is that I've noticed that when he comes onto shows, he doesn't talk about intelligent design or anything else. He just now sticks to one thing, which is his presuppositionalist point of view. And if I understand correctly, the argument is that the rules of classical logic are not reliable unless there's something external to them which is underpinning them or guaranteeing their reliability. And of course, this guarantee is coming from God. God guarantees that the rules of classical logic can be relied upon. And we use the rules of classical logic to solve all sorts of things and to define what is true in reality. And that if there's nothing guaranteeing the reliability and the truth and the usefulness of the rules of classical logic, then we can't really know anything at all, because it's like a tool which hasn't got any, which is not fit for the purpose. It can only be fit for the purpose if there's a God guaranteeing it. And I've seen him come on to, or where did he go on to? I know that he's made one or two of his own videos, and he also went on to Talk Heathen once or twice, and he did get Eric in a horrible mess. And I mean, Eric completely lost it, and it's one of his worst shows I've ever seen. And of course, it's a kind of trickery, because you start asking the questions. You start his strategy is to ask questions, yes and no questions, and ultimately, how do you know that you're how do you know that the laws of classical logic which you use to determine reality are actually reliable? I don't think he actually puts it in that way. He puts it in another way, such that you end up admitting that you've got no basis. You've got no basis for your belief that the rules of classical logic are actually reliable. That, I mean, you could be using any random set of rules, and for that reason, your worldview is completely unreliable and doesn't make any sense. Which effectively is what the guy was saying on the Atheist Experience when he came on, and said that your worldview can only make sense if there's a God, and otherwise you've got a nonsensical worldview. And so Eric did get in a mess over that. I think he really lost his. He came across, in my view, very, very badly, and I understand that he doesn't. Matt won't talk to him. I mean, Eric actually said something which was completely ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, I'm an atheist, but I call out atheists when I think that they're wrong, and when I don't think that they're doing a good thing for atheism. And I think that Eric was really made a complete mess of that episode. He lost his temper, and he even said, "Matt's waiting for your call." I mean, what kind of a weak person says, I can't handle you, but Matt can? And he completely, in my view, discredited himself, which is a shame, because I've seen him on shows and I quite like, he's I mean, he's not Matt's level, and but he's fairly reasonable to listen to. Having said that, I don't often watch Talk Heathen, because the conversations are way too long and boring as well. They get somebody on, and I know that the difference between Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience is that on the Atheist Experience, the average length of call is about 5 minutes, and on Talk Heathen, I've seen them go on for nearly an hour on a thankless, boring conversation. So I very rarely watch it unless there's a completely hilarious Christian on. I won't really bother with Talk Heathen. So yeah, Eric got into a big mess there, and I'm sure that he regrets that, and he'd be best to put his hand up and say, well, yeah, I didn't do really a very good job with that particular one. I think you've got to be ready for the presuppositional arguments, and I think that one of the things that's been said is that, you know, if a presuppositionalist says, well, you've got no grounding for your adherence to for your confidence in the rules of logic, you've got no grounds to have that confidence because nothing is guaranteeing it. And then I suppose my reaction to that would be, well, if that's true, neither do you. And then they will say, well, no, because God guarantees it. And then, of course, I suppose you've got to say, well, you can't use this argument to prove the existence of God. First, you've got to prove the existence of God, and then you will have your guarantee. So in that sense, it's a bit like the intelligent design argument, because I'm sure that what intelligent design proponents are really interested in is proving the existence of God by saying that the natural world is far too complicated to have just occurred by its own means, and that it must have had a designer, and that is the proof of God. They're not really, I honestly think that intelligent design people are not interested in, as such, debunking evolution or proving that God designed everything. I think that effectively they're trying to use this as an argument for the existence of God. And of course, I don't believe that. And I also don't believe in the presuppositionalists' nonsense. Because, I mean, as for the rules of logic, they don't need, it's self-evident. It's evident from the way that we use logic and the fact that it's reliable. We don't need anything to guarantee them any more than we need anything to guarantee the way that gravity behaves and all the laws of physics. So I don't believe that we need any guarantees, because it's just a tool which has been devised by man, a bit like mathematics. Mathematics doesn't exist out there in the universe. Man devised mathematics by observing the world, and man invented mathematics. And we don't need a God to guarantee the reliability of mathematics, because the reliability of mathematics is proven. It's self-evident from the success of mathematics in what it does, and all the internal rules which have been obviously discovered and devised. So, but my main point with the presuppositionalist argument is that when you get into a conversation with presuppositionalists, which frankly will probably never happen to me, is that I would just say that you're in the same position as me, because if you're saying that that logic has got no reliability unless there's a God, I say, well, first of all, that's circular, and you're actually in the same position as I am, because it hasn't been established that a God exists, and you can't use this as a proof of God. And it comes back to what I was saying before, that no Christians out there probably believe in God because of the presuppositionalist argument. Darth Dawkins himself, I'm fairly certain, I can't be 100% certain, believes in God for other reasons, but not the presuppositionalist argument. He's just picked this up, and he thinks it's a tool which he's a one-trick man, and there's no way he could possibly be in any debates, because he's just got this one argument. And in fact, we saw this with Sai when he was debating with Matt, that he just kept saying to Matt, how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? It's just like an infinite number of questions. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? And it's the same thing, that you don't need to justify things down to the nth degree, because it's like with the argument that hard solipsism, we can't know that we're not a brain in a vat. And you could just then say, well, okay, then it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter because, it may well be that nothing is real. So you can believe anything you want. The only thing about that is, could you believe that you'll be okay if you jump off the top of a 10-story building? So you may have a confidence that we've got no guarantee that reality is real. But what stops you from jumping off a 10-story building? What stops you from being afraid when you get into an aeroplane? So I think that we've all got to agree that there's a certain, we can't have certainty, and that we've got to agree that the world is real. Otherwise, we can't argue anything. And we've also got to agree, frankly, that the laws of logic by which we argue don't need a divinity to guarantee them. We've got to agree on that, because if we don't, we just won't get anywhere in our arguments. And presuppositionalists can sit back and say, well, in that case, nothing you believe has got any validity, because you've got no way of underpinning these laws. Whereas I believe in God, so everything that I believe is guaranteed. Okay, I won't admit to that, and you've heard my reasons, and I think they're sound reasons. But if the presuppositionalists want to sit with their Bibles in their rooms, rocking backwards and forwards and repeating that to themselves, then they're welcome to it. In the meantime, I'd much rather discuss the Kalam cosmological argument and Thomas Aquinas, his arguments, even intelligent design I'd like to discuss. I know that that's not really an argument for God as such. It's more a sort of quasi-scientific thing, or pseudo-scientific thing. But I'd much rather discuss those issues, morality and ethics, and than presuppositionalist apologetics, because I don't really think that it's worth wasting time on. It's not going to get us anywhere. And of course, you could argue that that's not a good reason not to discuss it. The fact that it's not going to get us anywhere. But actually, no. I think it is a good reason, because it's not really constructive. And I'm glad that very few apologists actually use that method of argument. Okay, so I don't know what you think of that, whether I've come across coherently enough. Whether if you're a presuppositionalist, you're welcome to leave comments. I'd be delighted to hear from you. But I don't think we're going to make much progress. But nevertheless, you're welcome to comment, or if you agree with me, or maybe you think that I've made some mistakes in what I've said, let me know below, because obviously I'm always keen to learn. And so it's Saturday today. Tomorrow we've got the Atheist Experience, which I usually watch on Monday morning when I'm working, or rather I listen to it. And I hope it's a better show this week, because, frankly, the shows have been getting worse and worse. They're not what they used to be, and I'm not really too sure why it is, but I don't really look forward to them. I found myself going back to a lot of the old episodes. I don't know why, but anyway, that's just my opinion. So that's it for now, and subscribe to my channel, because I do need subscribers. The more subscribers I get, the more people will see my channel, and if you could give me a thumbs up as well, that would be useful. Because after all, guys, I'm making this effort. I'm putting my face on the screen. I'm trying to, trying to add to the discourse which is going on out there. And obviously, not too many of us do it. So if you could subscribe and give me a thumbs up, or thumbs down if you don't like the video, I would very much appreciate it. Okay, so see you again very soon.